Okay. And then this is only for us. We'll make this link available to you. If anybody else in your group wants to see. So I think that what we're doing here is we're talking about our bigger project. A lot of you are members of agencies who have agreed to help deliver a survey, and we're working through that. But what I heard and what others in our group have heard is we talked to you is you want to know what we're doing overall, not just the survey. And so that's what I'm here for. Like I said, interrupt me at any time if it's not clear. I'm going to give you just a taste of what we're doing, and then try to leave a lot of time for questions. My name's Tammy Bond. I am a member of a fairly sizable team at Colorado State University. We don't do this project all the time, so we're working on a bunch of different things, but these are the people who have come together to do this. Most of us are engineers. The systems people and the journalism people are about communication. And so we all play in different ways. And back to the beginning, this project we call SAPPHIRES. It is an acronym for a long thing that about protecting households, and we are supported by the National Science Foundation. So I'm going to start with outdoor smoke is a source of health risk. And this is true of traffic, industry, anything that generates air pollutants. And so before I talk about the context there, I just want to make sure everybody knows what PM 2.5 is. Those are very small particles. So each of your eyelashes is about 100 microns thick. A micron is 1/1,000,000th of a meter. And you're probably used to seeing dust floating in the air of your house when the sunlight shines through it. So that dust is about 5 to 50 microns in diameter. So it's a little bit smaller than your hair, but still about the same size. And then when smoke makes particles, or when smoke is in particles or combustion makes particles, then those are about 0.5 microns. And those can get deep in your lungs because they're so little that they can go around the tortuous pathways that make up your lungs. And so one of the things people do is they make this 2.5 micron cutoff, and they say, yeah, the big stuff might affect your health, but it's not going to get way into your lungs. And so they pay special attention to these really small particles. So when I talk about PM 2.5, that's what I'm talking about, the really, really little ones that tend to come from combustion. And there's other places they can come from too. Um, so, oh, oh no. Sorry, I'm missing a slide. Let me go back to the smoke though. This is where a lot of PM 2.5 comes from. And so one of the, sorry, I'm jumping back and forth because of my missing slide. So one of the reasons that this is important for risk is that there used to be a lot of industry and traffic, and there still is, that was making air pollutants, but regulations have done a pretty good job at cleaning that up. But what we can't do, and what's increasing as the climate gets warmer, is control wildfires. So I think everybody's noticed that wildfire smoke is getting more frequent. And so when we're worried about PM 2.5, those tiny little particles, we used to be able to do something about it. And now many of the sources that are out there are ones that people do not have control over. So the home environment, the residential environment, is really also important for health. Now, when people do what's called epidemiology, where they look at where people are getting sick, and then they see what the situations of those people are, they find that illness, especially heart and lung disease, is correlated with high outdoor PM 2.5 concentrations. But if you think about your life, most of the time, you're not outdoors. Well, maybe some of you are. Maybe some of you are luckier than others and get to be outdoors most of the time. But most people spend a lot of time indoors. And on average, people spend 70% of their time in their homes. And so we have this correlation with PM 2.5 outdoors, but people are mostly inside. So we guess that outdoor air that's found inside must be important. And we understand generally, but we don't understand specifically how that happens. So does that make sense so far? That's just background for why we're doing this. Speak up if you have questions. Okay, so that's the background. The goals of our project are protecting people from polluted outdoor air, so managing air at home, understanding how the human behavior, the built environment, that's the structure of the home, and external hazards, it's like air pollution, understand how they work together so we can reduce exposures to airborne pollutants. And then, and this is partly where you folks come in, support a workforce community who understands that environment so that someday they can deliver health-focused interventions. So I think right now, you all are very familiar with weatherization. It's a lot of what you do, and you think about energy at home. Imagine if you could also think about health at home. And this isn't saying you're not doing enough. It's just saying there are other ways we can help people. So where does that indoor air pollution come from? It can be generated indoors. It can be created by cooking. So when you cook with oil, it makes particles. You probably can see the smoke. It can be generated from personal care products and cleaning products. So you can make your own pollution indoors. But even if you don't, it can come from outdoors, and exactly how much comes depends on the weather conditions and the leakage of the house. And that's something that you all know a fair bit about. So what do people do to manage their indoor air pollution? So they can turn on ventilation like exhaust fans, they can use air cleaners, or they can just try to generate less pollution. But those measures, no matter what you do, can still allow you to get exposed to outdoor air pollution that comes indoors. Even if you do all those things, you can still be exposed. So what are we doing about that system? There's a few pieces of our project. We have people working on, there's a lot of sensors of outdoor air pollution. And so when outdoor air pollution is high, anticipate, hey, maybe we should start treating the indoor air. We're measuring things. I think a lot of you are familiar with diagnostics. So we're measuring pressure differences that would allow us to predict indoor and outdoor flow. And then some of us are designing devices that make sure that if air is coming into the home, it's coming in through a filter. Right now, it could come in through a bunch of cracks. We're trying to do to take measures so that it has to come in through a filter so that the smoke particles could be removed. But ultimately, putting all these things together, we want to help people decide when to operate a system that could manage the air. So that's one piece of it, home air management. And then there's some other pieces that involve people. So one of our goals is look at the whole system. A lot of things need to go right for an intervention, something you put in somebody's home and say your air is going to be cleaner. A lot of things have to go right in order for that to actually work. So we are trying to consider the whole system, not just a device, not just a widget that's like, here, put this in your home and everything will be fine. Right? So it has to be easy to use. It has to be installed correctly. It has to be easy to fix. People have to want it. It can't be annoying. All of those things. So we're trying to build in that people part. So that means we have to think about the people. The user is part of the system. So some people might really embrace having to work with the system. Maybe they're sensitive. So a mother who has a child with asthma pays a lot more attention to air quality and might be willing to work with a device. Some people just don't have time to think about it and want everything to be done for them. And both of those types of users, as well as hundreds of others, are in the people who might benefit from it. So that our communication people are trying to get that kind of information. And then the survey that you're doing, so this is where your part plays in. What we think of as effectiveness, are you really going to reduce pollution? That depends on what people do every day and whether they maintain their system. And we're trying to get at their attitudes to using things and maintaining things with that survey. So that's what's on those tablets that you have been passing out. We are currently working on ways to help people understand exactly what we're asking. But that's what that piece is for. And for you folks, the reason we're attempting to work with the weatherization program is we think those are exactly the kinds of people that would benefit from or could benefit from systems like this. So when we send out a survey at the university, we get a bunch of people who say, yes, I'm really interested in this because I'm a university researcher. That is not most of the people in the world. And so we're trying to reach beyond that. I've got a couple more slides and then we'll be open for questions. I feel like I've said a lot of things, and so I don't know if you're still with me, but again, feel free to break in if you're not. So another piece of this puzzle is preparing for delivery. As a researcher, I cannot change or bring health to all the homes that might need it. That work is going to need skilled professionals who understand homes and understand people. And so energy assessors, we believe, already have the skills to identify health measures. You folks are familiar with a lot of different house types. I was just hearing about them, about how the variety and how long that assessment could take. You're accustomed to working with occupants and understanding their limitations. You understand how to put in a technical measure and assess whether it's having an outcome. And so again, I know your plate is full of the work that you're doing for energy and weatherization. And yet, if I had to pick people who would be the best at bringing health to homes, it would be you all. And so we're trying to think of ways that programs could be expanded if this catches on to bring health in addition to comfort to people at home. So one of the things that we are doing, in addition to asking you to help with surveys, is we're working with an IREC accredited training center to develop online training that you would be able to take for continuing education credits. So beginning to learn about principle, I think there's already a healthy home training, but adding what does home air management look like? What does it look like to determine what air pollutant sources are around and whether people need to be protected? And we're still early in the process of developing that, so it probably won't be until next year that indoor climate research and training would be able to offer that. So here's a summary. Our ultimate goal is protecting people in their homes from air pollutants that they don't have control over. And the pieces that we have to put together are being able to manage air quality at home, looking at the whole system, because as soon as you're in a home, you're in somebody's kingdom and it's their system, not ours. And preparing for delivery, thinking about the people that might be able to reach all of those homes that could benefit. So that's it. I'm going to stop there and see if y'all have questions. Wide open for questions. And I'm going to put it in this mode so we can skip to any slides if you want to. Or I can just take the slides off and we can talk.
So, one question I have is, so with the surveys, are you guys going to follow up with these clients after the weatherization was done, or you're just trying to get the basic information from basic clients? Like, it has nothing to really do with what we're doing in the homes, like if
Yeah,
it's
so
affecting anything.
the with this project, we are not tying the survey to the weatherization because we're asking about different things. Um, and we're only asking about their attitudes about maintenance and usage and what affects them and how and what they care about. So we
Okay.
don't have a follow-up. Um, we are keeping, so we have to be a little careful because we want to keep their information private. I believe we're keeping a tie to the home, to your case ID, in case we want to take advantage of that later or we think of something to explore. But we're currently not approved to ask. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Paul, your hand is up.
So can I ask you, Joseph, with it really just being asking questions about their thoughts about adoption of technology, all of that kind of thing, not part of weatherization, is there some kind of feedback that you think would be valuable to them? I mean, is there a follow-up that would be of interest to them?
I'm not sure how they would feel like about a follow-up. Sometimes they're kind of hesitant about taking it in the first place. So I think if there
Mhm.
was a follow-up, that may like deter them away from wanting to take it anyways. It's another step that it's not just, hey, let's do this real quick. And with us doing it like at the assessment, they're kind of excited about the work, so they're more willing to help with that. A follow-up's going to be after the work's done, so they really have nothing vested in it. You know what I mean? Like if they want to
Mhm.
take the time to do the follow-up.
Yeah, and about the only thing I could think of as a potential follow-up would be like a little info sheet that kind of summarized the results of the survey across everybody who took it, and like, hey, there's a link, you can go look at it if you want, but I'm not sure that that would really be of interest, or how many people would actually click the link and is it worth doing. But I want
Yeah,
to be sensitive to when we're asking people to support our work and take the survey, want to be sensitive to making sure that they get out of it what they would feel is valuable to them. And we need their expertise, their knowledge, and so it's only equitable for us to try to make sure that they get something out of it
yeah,
as well. And if the only thing they need out of it is the little gift card that they get, or whatever it is we're providing, that's fine.
yeah.
So
I,
a couple of, oh, sorry, go ahead, Joseph.
I think like I said, the biggest thing is they're willing to do it because we're there doing the assessment. They're thinking it's part of like what needs to be done to get the work done. Um, and obviously the gift card helps, but I think like I said, is if the work's already done, they're gonna feel less obligated to do the survey or do the following
Mhm.
up with it or whatever.
So I also want to emphasize that we are really concerned about their privacy. I know that there's people that don't want to sign up for things. Sometimes I'm one of them. And so I'm, we're even concerned about taking their address so we can send them the gift card, right?
Yeah,
And so like keeping them in the loop, I understand that it's also the right thing to do if people want to know to share that information with them, but I don't want to, I don't want to, like we shred their address as soon as we send them the gift card.
yeah.
So, so we have, there's a balance there. If you can think of a way, like if somebody's interested, then I don't know, but
And I think like I had a few clients that said they would rather give out their address and their email address just because I think
mm,
they were scared of getting the email like spam emails and
like
stuff like that.
spam.
So they're
Mhm.
like, so I told them like you can put your email address in and they'll email you and then they're, well, I just put my address. So and I think it's just for the worried about that part. So I think that's good to know, to express to them like you guys will not be sending them extra
I
emails, will not be sending them stuff to their address, and like everything's, the only reason you're asking for that information is for the gift card. It's not for any part of the survey.
Yeah, I totally want to hear from people who don't ever want to hear from me again, because those
Yeah,
people are part of who's out there, right?
yeah,
What we could do though is give them we could offer them a postcard to our webpage so they could follow up. That's the thing that I think would protect their privacy the best.
yeah. I mean, if you, I think the having something kind of explaining what the project's about, why we're asking these questions, and then if you had like a link or something saying if you were interested in following up and seeing the results of of your survey and all the other surveys, you could go to this link.
Yeah, that's totally probably the way to do it.
Yeah, and so instead of trying to email them or send them something like you said, because a lot of people don't want that, but there probably will be a few that do want to see what the results of other people's surveys and stuff, not other people's, but the
Hmm.
consensus of the survey.
Yeah, I think it's a small fraction, but it's not zero.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so one more thing for you, Joseph. I'm curious if you were curious about what people thought afterwards, or like we're currently not planning to follow up, but I'm wondering if there's something that's interesting to you.
It definitely like, so there are some homes that we kind of follow up with, like especially we just had our weatherization day a couple weeks ago. So usually with those houses, we kind of build more of a relationship with the clients because we're there a lot more than normal.
Mm,
And with those houses, we kind of get more follow-up information about. So it is like something that's pretty interesting. Being able to tell the type of work and how much we're affecting the people's life is pretty rewarding thing to know. And like I said, it's not a lot of the clients. So, but it is good to know like the ones we're doing, the ones we are hearing about is like a lot of good things. Good.
mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think so we're also trying not to affect your work,
Yeah.
right? Like there's a there's a balance there. So but it sounds like you really value the the positive relationships when they come forward.
So, for sure. I think
Hmm.
you kind of have to work in this field of work.
Yeah, totally.
And so sometimes, like especially with the survey, sometimes it's easy. We hand them the tablet, kind of go over it real quick. They go through it, fill it out. We're done. Sometimes, I mean, Will knows. Will was out here with us. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to sit there with the client and pretty much do it for them. Read them the questions and say, hey. Then they tell you the answer and you click it. And so sometimes it's easy. Sometimes you got to sit there for 20, 30 minutes to do it with them.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we pulled back from doing that and are going to try to figure out ways, because that it should not take time from you. That is
Yeah.
not I don't think that I assume you don't have time. You didn't have this extra 30 minutes in your day, right? So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, so we're gonna try to figure out ways to make it easier, and really appreciate you sharing what's not worked
Yeah.
as well as what works. Um, yeah, other thoughts, questions? Troy, you're leaning forward, but you're still on mute. So yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to find my unmute. So I guess the general question would be, is it possible that the results of these surveys could be used for advocacy to our funders, particularly DOE, to increase the health and safety budget so that in some areas we could work in things like air filtration? And that's not to say that we can't do it
Mm,
now. We might be able to put that in our plan now, and they would approve it. But New Mexico might be the only state that does that or something. So we don't want to be the outliers with it. Do you foresee anything like that happening with the results?
So I might let Paul talk about that. That is, okay, so first of all, federal policy and federal funding is not my expertise, and it just got like to be less of my expertise after the last couple of weeks, right? And so but that aside, there's been a long-standing divide between DOE and health, and I think there are ways to get around that. It's a little bit chicken and egg in my view, that we don't have the ways to do this. We don't have the measures to offer. Well, we do have air filters, but we don't have a complete package. And so there's not been a demand for it. And so it doesn't get rolled in. So we're trying to step up by saying, here are things you can do, and here are ways that people can learn. And we hope that people are able, either by leveraging DOE or by grading and funding, or by I'm not really sure, but that is the goal, that we need to touch a lot of homes to bring energy efficiency to the country. Might as well bring health at the same time. Paul, do you want to comment on that? Because I know
Yeah,
you've been on.
so I think it's a really good question, Troy, and I think the answer is yes. I don't know whether the survey itself would by itself be enough, but I think the survey that we're conducting will provide a lot of insight to DOE and others of, if you want to bring interventions to homes, to clients, what are some of the considerations to increase adoption, increase use, increase effectiveness, so that as we're also doing additional interventions, we are actually seeing success. So it's sort of I think the overall results of the project, the survey, the technology, all of that stuff, I think absolutely could lead to opportunities to advocate for more health and safety funding, for more measures that can lead to health. We know that DOE already has, Congress has told the weatherization program, and DOE has told the weatherization program that they want to see more accounting for the non-energy impacts. And that's this would be, I think, a really big one of those. So as we have data to support that, I absolutely think that there is a clear avenue for having the results of the project lead to that advocacy for increased funding. And the survey could lead to kind of best practices to implement these additional interventions, as well as increased adoption or effectiveness of interventions that we're doing all the time. Like, if maybe this will help us figure out how to get people to change their filters more. Things that we're already hoping they do with what we're already installing. We'll have to see whether we get those sorts of insights, but I think that the whole package, yes, leads to advocacy for more funding, actually getting more funding, having more measures to do, and having people actually realize the benefits more effectively.
Great. Yeah, that sounds optimistic, which is what
Well, you got to be
we'd love to
optimistic.
hear. Yeah, you've got to be.
I think, go ahead, Troy.
What I'm thinking is, I'll have further conversations with Veronica and Joe and Harley and the people on their teams. We may want to this year insert something into our health and safety plan and cite whatever work you've already done, including this survey, to include some sort of filtration. And of course, we're going to have to reach out for advice on what that would be in areas that are affected by wildfires, because we're introducing this outside air. And that would be coupled with, of course, any kind of client behavior that is modified as a result of the surveys. Because I think you're right. The very act of asking these questions can be catalyst for behavior change. They may not know it, but it could be what's actually starting that. And so we could approach this in two ways, and those would be the two ways: technologically and behavioral.
And I think, so first of all, we certainly want to be able to at least give advice on what to do. Like right now with that heavy smoke outside, maybe you don't want to run a fan because it's just going to pull smoke in. I don't know that that's the message, right? But we want to be able to say a little better than, I'm not really sure, maybe a filter, right? Give people some actionable advice. The other thing I see us doing is opening possibilities and real discussions. You may or may not be surprised, but so I've worked in the indoor airspace for a long time and also in developing countries, and it's just so surprising how people are very dismissive of these individuals. Are like, oh, that they don't have enough money for that, or they won't do that because they're and they're people trying to navigate their lives like we all are, right? And so if I feel like if we can describe it in a way that goes along with the technology, like, oh, if this is your constraint, then you should probably do this. Um, then it gives people who maybe don't understand really constrained lives, really some I think people just work with what they have, right? And so being able to put language on and say, oh, you're dealing with this, then you should go in that direction because those people are working 3 jobs and they're not going to do the thing that you said, right? So that it's that kind of space that we're trying to open up. Work with the people as they are, and then you can see the possibility of it working. Because I think in the flip side of advocacy is negativity, right? People will never do that. People don't care.
Agreed. Thank you.
Yeah, that's something that I feel the survey is really positioned well to help with. Because I mean, like at ASHRAE, I'm always hearing people say, "Well, this isn't for poor people because they can't afford it." Like, well, why are we just abandoning them? We have whole programs like weatherization. If we can understand that not every intervention has to be paid for by the resident, we have support systems. And if we can understand what would make somebody want to use it, then we don't have to just be in that narrow box. And I think the survey will help with helping others see pathways to get really supportive interventions. I'm resisting the same technologies because not every solution is a technological solution,
That's right.
but have yeah, help other people see pathways for interventions to get into these families' homes so that we really are supporting them the way they deserve to be supported, just like anybody else.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. I don't have any more questions. I appreciate your time and effort with this.
Anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak, did anything come up for you that you want to share or ask?
No, it's just very interesting to learn about that air quality issues that people experience, but I don't have any questions either.
Thanks for being here, Veronica.
You're
Harley, is
welcome.
there anything you want
Thanks
to
for
type
having
in,
us.
or anyone? Then a couple of people from our team who haven't spoken are here. Allison and Will, did you want to share anything with the folks? Not required.
I don't have anything to share. Yeah, nothing on my end.
Thanks, Tammy. Yeah, I can't think of anything. I think it sounds like from what's already been shared, that knowing your audience, knowing who you're working with is probably the most essential thing, and you all on the call know your audience a lot better. Yeah, I don't have anything to share.
Well, between them, Ellison and Will have measured air quality in a lot of homes and workplaces. And just a huge range of indoor environments in Colorado. So, yeah, not just homes.
So what's the next step from here? Are we gonna go back to the surveys or,
So, yeah, so we're doing some work on them. Kristen, maybe you can say where they're at. What we really want to do is get some good pilots. We did pilot this survey with people, but we're thinking we're going to seek a wider range of people to tell us what they have trouble understanding. Go ahead, Kristen. Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, they've been through a couple rounds of additional reviews, been pared down, questions removed, that sort of thing. Kind of reworked a few questions that seemed like that were really challenging to people. So just trying to get that pilot started, trying to find people to review it, even if it's just a few. So working on that.
And then, so we want to get the survey back in the field, but we don't want it to burden you. That's the big goal. Right. I don't remember. So Joseph, since you're here and you've observed this, and you've talked about sitting down with people and having to do it with them, do you think it's the language of the questions, or is it they're not comfortable with the technology of the tablet, or both?
well, I think it's both. And it just varies on the client. We deal with such a wide range of clients from younger to older, you know what I mean? So the older ones is definitely the technology. But some of the questions, just the way it was worded, and I think some of it may have just been overthinking instead of just kind of putting what you think. But I think it's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if we could word the questions a little more understandable for just where it's a little more easier to understand for them, I guess. I think it would be easier for them to, and kind of more direct, like kind of what you're wanting out of it, like kind of, yeah. I think that's what it was. Just seemed kind of an open question, and they didn't really know what to put.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why we're hoping to pilot by having people take the survey and we watch them and see what they have trouble with. So that's what we're hoping will be better. I think that just as when you do research on this stuff, you have to be careful not to ask questions in a leading way, like it's obvious what you want them to say. So that's why some of them end up vague. And so there's maybe a happy medium between not getting only what you think you're going to get because of the way you ask the question, and like giving them enough leeway. And so that's what we're trying to hit, and it's not easy. Like we're just struggling with that. But then, yeah, with regard to the technology, I totally understand that not everybody is accustomed to that tablet form either. So we can think of ways around that too. Anyway, the short answer is we're trying to modify it so it doesn't take time from you. And it's on pause until we have it modified and we're ready to try again.
Okay, sounds good.
And we really appreciate the feedback. This is exactly why we wanted to work with you, because we knew that you would not, or at least Paul recommended that y'all were likely to be not only helpful, but you give us honest feedback. Because if it's not working, we want to know it's not working instead of getting 200 surveys that don't mean anything.
So, are you guys planning on expanding the surveys? Like after, I mean, obviously we get it kind of under control where it's easier for the clients and stuff. Are you guys planning on expanding to other states, or are we just kind of using New Mexico at this point?
You guys honestly are the guinea pigs. But yes, we had a couple of other states online that were willing to do it, but we decided to start with one and see how it went. And I'm so glad we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were talking about, let's start with one state, I'm like, well, it ought to be New Mexico, because between Troy and the agencies, that's where it's a really, really strong program, people who'll give us good, honest feedback. So let's start there. Hope they don't hate us for it, and because that'll be the way it works best. And I've known Troy for a really long time. I've known some others of you for less time, but it was like, just great people, great program. So good place to start. See, if you weren't so good, you wouldn't have to be the guinea pigs.
Yeah. It's all
Thank
right.
you,
We don't
Paul.
mind. We don't mind. Yeah.
Thank you guys for thinking of us, and we're honored to be the guinea pigs. Um, yeah, Joe and Veronica will have to have a separate meeting to step down our game for the future. So we're not.
We don't want that.
No,
Troy.
you guys are great.
We do appreciate it. Thank you. It's really cool to be part of something like this.
It's definitely mutual.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to be the guinea pigs.
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah,
exciting.
but in this case, we're what you share about what you're experiencing is so important. Anyone else have anything? Because I think we can wrap up. Okay, thank you. Well, if anything comes up for you, don't be afraid to email or contact, and I'll post the recording in case anyone wants to take a look.
So one more question. So when the new pilot, or when you guys are done with the pilot and ready to send it out again, are we gonna have to send the tablets back, or will it be something we can upload? How would that work?
More than likely, you'll just use the same ones and it'll be the same everything. So
Okay.
Mhm.
That'll work. And then if you guys need anything for us, like to review it or maybe try it on a client or something before you officially release it, just let us know.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Thanks all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you
Take care.
guys.
All right.
See y'all
Have a
later.
good day.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.